people see when they see a United Methodist? What do people see when they see a United Methodist woman? What would you say are the marks of the church from your perspective?
I think the marks of the Methodist movement do go back to our roots in Wesley's approach. I think the very first thing that sets Methodism apart when we're at our best is this commitment and the foundation that it all begins with grace. That God's action is first. That creation is a system of abundance and mutuality, and that we're connected. Humans are connected to the whole created order that we know that God loves. And before we respond to God, before we have a name for God, before we have a concept of God, God is busy loving us into being ourselves, endowing us with capacities, and building the foundation for a fulfilled life, a bountiful life, and a generous life. And so when we're at our best, I think that it's that grace of God, and knowing that the grace is not just for me. It extends, of course, to the sisterhood. So it's one of the reasons I have to listen to the people who are talking to me, right? Because I know that sister is a woman full of grace as well. But it extends to the whole of creation. My neighbors who are very different from me, with whom I may never be able to build those bonds of sisterhood, are still blessed of God, endowed with that image of God. You know, Wesley came back over and over again to the image of God that's internal to us. I have something to learn from them. I have something to offer to them, and that together we're part of the blessedness of creation that calls us together. And that's what leads through the whole expression, right? That initial grace calls us to a life of increasing sanctification, and that necessitates the small groups. Do you know the classes and bands of Wesley's day are the units and circles of today in United Methodist Women, and that love issues in action. And so Wesley started us out by taking collections for the poor, collecting clothes, teaching children who were excluded from the schools, and challenging institutions like slavery that alienated and limited and seeked to strip the humanity of persons endowed with God's grace. So when we're at our best, those marks are very evident. I believe they're critically needed in today's world, that Methodism has a place to fulfill in the ecumenical network that is uniquely ours and that is very much needed as we seek to work together to express our full giftedness and to grow into this process of sanctification in which we're engaged, and to make the world a more fruitful and loving place.
Now, you mentioned the ecumenical world, and you're alluding to our ecumenical relationship somewhat. Tell us, how does United Methodist Women join in that ecumenical conversation?
So there were a lot of women working in mission, not quite as long ago as United Methodist Women, but pretty close behind. And so in the formal ecumenical movement, the women had a whole track, sessions derived just for them, called Women's Work for Women, at the ecumenical missionary conferences. And so women met together. In fact, even before that, before the denominations, women's organizations really formed, women often gathered together in cities and towns to work together to help the poor, from church to church. So church women have always banded together locally as well as the denominations connecting. From those early times together, actually we draw the roots of what we now call Mission U. Because one of the outgrowths of that movement was the development of shared study materials so that women would know more about their sisters around the world, and that their mission service would be better informed and would be deeply contexted in the life of faith. And so for decades, the women's mission studies were published ecumenically. We still share, we still connect. I'm in contact particularly with some of my sisters that lead similar organizations around the denominations. And we are members of the World Council of Churches, and we work together with ecumenical organizations at the United Nations. United Methodist Women was one of the founders of Ecumenical Women, which is a place where women of faith come together to talk about the things that we would like to see in the UN declarations and in the statements, and to sort of plan for some of the work that we're about to do together. So there's a lot of historical connections which seem very normal to us today, and that also helps to shape who we are.